This week's chapter of Black Clover felt like it flew by and dropped us dead in the center of things by the end of it, but at the same time, there were so many juicy tidbits dropped to talk about. We finally are getting hints at what the Heart Kingdom is all about, and I could not possibly be any more excited to talk about everything. So let's jump right into it. Hello everyone, I'm Ozzy, and this is my Black Clover 225 chapter analysis. Starting off the chapter, we're introduced to an all-new character, a member of the Heart Kingdom named Gaja, who suddenly appeared on the ship. I want to point out that Asta noticed him before he said anything, which is a cool little indicator in regards to his growth in ki control. He's obviously not a master just yet, but this was a nice additional detail. So Gaja is a member of something called the Spirit Guard. My gut wants to tell me that he's probably not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, and that he's more so a kind of national border security. But considering what we learned from the chapter, I feel like a title like Spirit Guard holds a high importance in this country. Clearly from what we've seen of the Queen so far, I doubt she or her spirit needs any kind of guard, but perhaps in some way they are blessed or enhanced by the spirit the Queen possesses. So Gaja goes on to explain that the different ways in which the Queen manipulates the kingdom is due to her mana zone. Considering what we know of mana zone so far, this is huge. Literally. The range of her mana zone is enough to show just how much of a threat she raises to our party and the verse as a whole. It seems that Tabata has confirmed that the Queen is in possession of the Water Spirit, and not only that, but it has essentially been native to the Heart Kingdom since conception, as opposed to Sylph and Salamander, who have been around multiple areas. The fact that there have been pacts made with this spirit leads me initially to consider demonic involvement. However, instead, what seems to be the case is that the Water Spirit has had 1200 years in which to grow, which is why she is so huge as opposed to the other two, which is kind of my reasoning for why I didn't think it was the Water Spirit last chapter. As we've learned from Sylph, spirits grow over time, and it seems this one in particular has had plenty of time. Following with this manga's pattern of blitz-like pacing, we immediately jump into battle against Gaja and the Queen. However, this is sure to be short-lived, as Gaja mentions this is for the sake of peace, and not necessarily a declaration of war. Initially, I thought it may be that he's testing them because they are in need of help from strong mages, but instead I believe that they simply intend to use Asta, and this isn't some kind of test. I really love this chase sequence as they try to follow after Asta. Yet again, Black Clover leans upon one of its greatest strengths of team-based encounters. It was awesome to watch Finral boost their already empowered jumps with warp bullets. Gaja proceeds to refer to this as third-rate magic, which I want to address in a second. So right as we think our heroes are getting somewhere, Gaja catches up effortlessly. It seems that without any kind of magic spell supporting him, he's able to float. I, along with many others, presume that he is manipulating the mana around him to float, much like Licht was able to do. Growing up in such a mana-dense environment probably allows for most skilled mages in the Heart Kingdom to do this. He then proceeds to get serious, and we see some runes begin to appear around him. I honestly don't know what to make of this. There's a chance that his magic involves using runes to place restrictions and institute rules on people, akin to a character I remember from Fairy Tail. But my gut tells me that this is probably a normal thing for mages of the Heart Kingdom, the noteworthy ones at least. So Gaja mentions that Finral uses third-rate magic, and also goes to say that Noelle uses first-rate magic. What I believe this to mean is essentially that Noelle's use of crafting the water around her and molding it into an armor is indicative of a higher level, as opposed to him kind of having a favoritism towards water magic. At the same time, I believe that this shows that there's room for growth, especially in this arc in regards to Finral's magic. Moving into the final part of this chapter, we see Asta dragged down into this underground cavern. I honestly don't know what to make of this environment, considering it seemed like the Queen was at the top of some kind of mountain at the end of the last chapter. But considering that there is a kind of waterfall behind her, this is probably the bottom of that high place we saw last time. The The person I'm assuming to be the queen has this water knight in front of her preparing to fight Asta. It seems her fighting style might use an army of water warriors to protect her. Considering what she says about waiting for his demon and for the sake of my country, I no longer believe she is possessed by the demon infesting this kingdom, but instead is looking to combat it, using and or interrogating Asta's demon to figure out a way to destroy this other demon for good. So that's all for this chapter. But wait, there's more! Asta. After all this time, he finally pulls out the Demon Dweller's sword again. I don't mean to bring up this old argument again, but for transparency's sake, I was on the side that believed this sword was taken by Licht, and I'm fine with admitting that I'm wrong. Don't get me wrong, I get the argument people were making in that it simply returned to his spellbook, but I still find it suspicious that he went this whole time without using it, considering it has some very nice utility. It just occurred to me that he might finally use its true potential in this fight. I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe he'll be able to use Finral or Noel or possibly Yuno's magic to a very small extent. This arc is off to a bombastic start so far, and we can definitely look forward to something hype next chapter. Although I doubt this encounter will go on for even a full chapter. But that's all from me for this time. Thank you so much for watching, and until next chapter, Silsil.